Lord, it is great to be together today, and let just the life that you've given us, the truth that you've given us, the freedom, the forgiveness, the joy, the grace, let it be worshiped, let it be known today. Now, I believe that there are those who are listening, those who are here, they struggle to sense that. Life has taken it out of them. Things are happening. Where they are in life seems to be so far away from this thing that folks are talking about or seem to know. And so this morning I am praying that somehow a word will be spoken that will give hope that there is the possibility. They too can know the life that Jesus came to bring. Would you grant that this morning? Talk to us now, teach us now, and may your truths come out. Not my words, but your truths are what I'm asking through Christ. Amen. Well, it was a summer. I was just a kid, and my brother and I were among the captives being held at the Conchas Lake State Park just north of Tucumcari, New Mexico. The reason I say captives is because we were stuck there with nowhere to go and nothing to do. My parents, frequently in the summer, they would take some of their vacation and we'd spend the whole week or so at the lake, at Conchas Lake. And the thing was that their idea of a vacation was vastly different than my idea of a vacation as a young boy. So they would promptly vacate to the camper and rest all week, and we would be like, what are we going to do now? And so what you do when you're a kid like that, when you're being held captive at a lake, is you find some mischief to get into. But then again, it was a lake. What kind of mischief can you get into? So typically, though, my parents, we would camp in an area which was down near where the dam was on this lake. And so my brother and I would go down to the area around the dam and we'd start to explore. So if you can picture this, there was this enormous, right there it is. There was this enormous dam that was built by the Corps of Engineers somewhere around the dawn of time. And then next to it, where the dam stopped, there was this rock dam as well. And it stretched next to it. Where the two of them met together, if you can see that kind of in the middle of the screen there, where the two of them met together is where there was like this 30 to 40 foot drop off into the water next to the rock dam and the concrete dam, and just the kind of place where two boys could get into trouble. And so what we would do, then again, I say trouble, but the truth is, how much damage can you do to that? All we had was this big lake and this 40-foot drop-off and these enormous pile of rocks. It's not like we had fireworks or other explosives. That was another summer that I may or may not tell you about. And so they were kids, and what we would do is that we'd just throw rocks off the edge of the 40-foot drop-off and let them hit the water below. And at first it was small rocks and pebbles, and we'd throw those, and they'd hit the water, and they'd make a little bit of a splash, but that's about all. And it got rather boring rather quickly, as you can imagine. And so that's when we thought, well, how about throwing some larger rocks from the rock dam into the water? So we'd grab a rock about the size of a toaster, and then we'd throw that one in, and the splash and the ripple were much bigger, and we thought the bigger the better. And so we were working together to pick up rocks the size of our sister and throw them into the lake. Yes, we considered throwing our sister into the lake. And she's actually here today, and you will know if you meet her today that she was older and meaner than us, so we did not do that. I am the youngest in the family. How many youngest children in the room? We all know, don't we? How many oldest children in the room? You know what you're like. You know what you're like. So even though my brother and I thought about throwing her in the water, we didn't do that. Instead, we'd work together, and we'd get these huge rocks, and we'd chuck them into the water and watch the ripples stretch all the way to Canada, we thought. Of course, my geography wasn't so good when I was a kid. Anyhow, we had just this great time. And so it was just, it was such a great time to be there. And don't be too hard on me about my geography being off, by the way, because I noticed earlier this week, I noticed these people who thought that OU and Sooners was like the center of the universe until last night when it became a black hole. Okay, before people start throwing rocks at me, let me move on. My thought was this: Do you remember what it was like as a kid to throw a rock into a pond or a lake and watch the ripples? Remember the joy and the thrill that gave you as a kid? Remember how fun that was? And if you threw a rock big enough into a small enough pond, the ripples could actually reach all the way to the other side. And that was a reason to celebrate as a kid. Well, I've been wondering, what would it be like as a church to make ripples? Not in a pond or a lake, but in our community, and in our schools, and in our neighborhoods. What would it be like to make ripples for God? Ripples that reach all the way to the hearts of people. Ripples of grace that just wash over people. Ripples of the love of Christ that reach past the damage of sin in order to touch a soul with healing and life. What would it be like as a church to make ripples for God? Well, as crazy as it sounds, the people who were there and recorded the events that we find in the Bible made it clear that God actually loves to use people to do that. God actually loves to use people to make ripples and impact in other people's lives. He touches your life. He touches your life. And then he uses what he's doing in you to touch another life. It's called the ripple effect. It's the ripple effect. It's how God uses one life to touch another life. And then both lives are transformed more and more into the people that God created them to be. And the more I thought about it and the more I prayed about it, it just seemed like in this year where our theme is to move forward, I believe the Lord wants to teach us something about this ripple effect. And if you stick around BFC NAS long enough, you're going to discover, you're going to actually look at those banners as you walk in the door, and you're going to realize that the vision, the mission of our church, the vision of our church is that we would draw people to Jesus and then develop people in Jesus. That we would reach out and then rise up. That we would somehow make a ripple in somebody else's life that brings them to Jesus and then help them develop and grow and mature, all of us together who have been reached, that we might rise up and become more and more what he created us to be. That is our vision. And this ripple effect is at the heart of fulfilling that vision. And so what we're going to do is we're going to spend the next few weeks studying what Scripture has to say about the ripple effect, and then we're going to put it into practice as a church. We're going to practice making ripples. Yes, that's what I said. We're going to practice making ripples. You see, the way we're going to do that is the very first week in May, we have arranged for several different opportunities for you to just choose one, for several different opportunities for you to make a ripple for God. And we're asking you to just choose one. If you've got a heart to choose more than one, that's good. But we're asking everybody to choose one. And we've arranged these to where no matter what stage you are in life, no matter what condition you are in life, no matter wherever you may be, you can choose one of these. You can always participate in one. For example, you might be one of the opportunities is to make a ripple with a school toolkit. Our children's ministry has teamed up with World Vision to put together school backpacks for children in underprivileged areas. And so on that day, you can come to the fellowship hall where all of the things are going to be there, and you can pack them into one backpack, and then you can sign the card and pray over it, and then those are going to be sent to impoverished children. And you can make a ripple by being a part of that. Or you could choose to make a ripple in a widow's life. Within just earshot, really, of this church are people who have simple but serious projects in their homes that need to be taken care of, but these widows or these single parents are unable to take care of them themselves. And so those who choose this project will go to those homes and make a ripple in their life by taking care of those simple things. Or you may choose to make a ripple among the hungry. We've teamed up with the Lighthouse Outreach Center here in Bartlesville to make a ripple by going to there one night during that week, and we're going to prepare the meal, we're going to serve the meal, and we're going to hold the chapel service. So you can go, you could help make that meal. Again, you could help serve it. You might even participate in that chapel. Maybe God will lay it on your heart to be the one who speaks in that chapel service. But you can make a ripple among the hungry in our community. Or you could make a ripple in a fellow congregation. We've also arranged to where what we did is I called up our sister congregation in Pawhuska. How many of you have ever been to Pawhuska? You've got my deepest sympathies. You really do. Anyhow, I called up our pastor, Pastor Tony Seibels, and I said, Pastor, we'd love to help make a ripple in your congregation. Is there something we could do to bless your church? If I could bring a team over who could do something, fix something, construct something, what could we do to bless your church? He said, I'll tell you what we could do. We're desperately trying to take one of our old rooms we have and change it into a prayer room. And I said, we could do that. We could bring the kind of people who have the skills to make that happen for you. And so you might want to be a part of that team that goes and makes a ripple in one of our sister congregations. Or you could choose to be one of those who makes a ripple for our work and witness team that's going to Belize. Here at the end of June, the beginning of July, there's 17 people from your congregation who will be traveling to Belmopan in Belize to the Mountain View Church of the Nazarene and helping them finish construction on a sanctuary to where they can worship in there. And we've got 17 of our own going. And what we've done as a congregation, not the people are paying their own way, but as a congregation, we're paying for the building supplies. And so you might want to give towards that, and we're going to take a special offering during that time, that week, to help pay for those supplies, those building supplies, so that our team can go and help finish the construction on that congregation sanctuary. So the point is, during that week, we got all these different options during the Ripple Effect Week. And again, I'm asking you, just choose one and make a ripple. Just choose one of those projects and make a ripple for the Lord. It's the ripple effect. It's how God uses one life to touch another life with his love and his grace. So we're going to let the ripples begin. Now today, all that's introduction. Now today, as we begin this series of lessons, I want to talk to you about the rock that makes the ripple. I want to talk to you about the rock. And my whole idea here is simply this. The ripple does not begin with you. The ripple does not begin with you. It begins with God. The rock that makes the ripple is not me. The rock is God. There are several places in the Bible where God is described as our rock. For example, 1 Samuel says, there is no rock like our God. And then in Psalms it says, for who is God besides the Lord, and who is the rock except our God? At the heart of the Bible is this promise that God is the rock in an ever-changing world. God is the rock in an ever-changing world. And when it comes to making ripples in this ever-changing world, go ahead and put the next one up there. God is the rock in this ever-changing world. And when it comes to making ripples in this ever-changing world, we need to know that God is our rock. There is no rock like our God. Now, the good news is that when you think... This is good news. I'm going to say this is good news when you think about the escalating changes that are taking place in our world today. For example, there are geographical changes happening all the time. When I grew up, which was back in not the dark ages, but the dim ages, oh, come on. All of you who were raised in the dark ages didn't get that. Anyhow, when I grew up, there was this nation known as the Soviet Union. It doesn't even exist today. It was probably the greatest enemy that our country had at that time. It doesn't even exist anymore today. New countries come and new countries go. And we got all these geographical changes. There's also technological changes that are taking place. Watch this. How many of you have a cell phone on you right now? Let me see your hands, please. Everybody has a cell phone on you right now. Good grief. How many of you have, now here's the other one. Now, how many of you have a rotary telephone at home? Do I see anybody? I see one. Is it hooked up? Oh, Lord, have mercy on my mother. Good grief. Should have known. You're ruining my illustration up here. Technology just keeps changing, even though my mother doesn't. Technology just keeps changing. In fact, watch this. And I want you to turn to the person, and you can discuss this in the next. I want you to guess which nation in the world has the highest internet penetration of the world. In other words, what country has the highest percentage of its population that is connected to high-speed internet? Just guess. I want you to turn to people, somebody next to you, and tell them what you think it is. Go ahead. Guess. Don't tell me. Tell them. Okay? Okay? You got your guess? The country with the highest internet penetration, Iceland. 98.2%. Think about it. What else have they got to do? Really? I mean, come on. The United States, by the way, just in case you're wondering, is all the way down to number 20. Number 20. But technology is changing rapidly. I mean, in just the time it took for infants to become adults today, we all got cell phones and iPods and iPads and GPSs and DVRs. Technology just changes rapidly. And if those changes weren't enough, we also have economic changes. Economic changes. Forbes magazine, go ahead and put the next one up there. Economic changes going on. Forbes magazine did a study on 10, catch this, 10 of the most in-demand jobs today that did not exist 10 years ago. 10 of the most in-demand jobs today, they didn't even exist, and some of them, many of them actually didn't even exist 4 years ago. For example, data miners. There's a job for data miners. You can now get a job as chief listening officer. I would lose at that one. Anyhow, that means, but all that means is you realize that in schools now, we have to start preparing our students for jobs that do not exist yet with technologies that have not yet been invented. That huge changes going on. Add to that the scarcity of jobs in this tedious economy, and none of us are surprised to learn that the average student today, oh, you want to hear this one, guys? The average student today will change jobs, will have 10 to 14 different jobs by the time they're 38 years of age. It's just the changing economic times in our lives. And not all, you add to that political changes. Oh, my goodness. If there was ever a time when it was critical for Christians to filter their politics through their faith rather than filter your faith through your politics, that day is today. Political changes taking place in our country are epic, but they pale by comparison to the political changes taking place in our world. Nations are rising.